Before we get started tonight, ladies and gentlemen, on the episode of Fast Break here on iSports Radio, I want you to introduce y'all to a couple of our sponsors. First, Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players playing to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed, to try for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on the quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can find on social media at Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram Southern California _Warriors, and on Facebook, Southern California Warriors. Background Check International. Are you looking to background check a business hiring on? Let Kit Freeman take care of that for you. Kit founded as managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. You can find us on social media at Background Check International, BCI, or follow on the website, bcint.com. Now on to the show. With the trade deadline fastly approaching this week, we'll discuss the two trades that has happened so far in the NBA, and plus who else should be moved around the league. Kevin Durant and Stephen A. Smith are continuing their beef. We'll discuss those comments with those two individuals, and plus the Nets' woes after losing 8 straight today against the Jazz. Plus, we discuss All-Star Reserve names being announced. That and much more here on Fast Break, live on iSports Radio. You're directly free for That's All Sports, and you're welcome to join us. Join us as you shout tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to get into, lots to talk about, lots to dig into tonight. D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
Everything is pretty good. It's an interesting week of basketball, especially with trades coming up. The Magic are playing like the Magic again, so I'm used to these ass whoopings that we continue to take. But besides that, everything is pretty smooth.
Yeah, everything's kind of smooth, you know. A lot of news been coming out, you know, NBA wise. I think that news going like the rumor mill is going to heat up here the past next couple days. So, and plus, what's going to hit it? Those news. The NBA trade deadline, folks, 4 days away, and change away from the NBA trade deadline. We had one trade that went down earlier this week with the Portland Trail Blazers. With the Blazers sending, Norman Powell, Robert Covington. Let me see if I pull it up. Let's see, I'm trying to pull it up. Sorry. Norman Powell, Robert Covington to the Clippers for Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a future second-round pick. Real quick, D-Lock, what are your thoughts on that trade? And what do you think it means for both squads, for the Clippers and Trailblazers?
So, the Clippers got Eric Bledsoe and Norman Powell, correct?
No, the Clippers got Norman Powell and Robert Covington.
Norman Powell and Robert Covington. Bledsoe went to Portland.
Yes.
So the biggest thing that this brings to light to me, there is a possible way that we could possibly see Dame being moved. Yes, that sounds like a shocker, but got to see how long Eric Bledsoe contract is. I'm pretty sure he signed that long deal with Milwaukee, and I think they got off of it. The Clippers are one of the teams that's taking that. But the fact that they went and got Eric Bledsoe from the Clippers lets me know that they're in dire need of a point guard, and more than likely they're probably going to keep him for a while. I don't really see it as a bad move, to be honest, but maybe they're prepping for a move of Damian Lillard. Remember a couple of years ago, I believe, he said he's not about that teaming up stuff and he was going to stay in Portland and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff sounds a little different right now. So that's the thing that I think about with that. And he said Covington went to the Clippers as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
For some reason, it just seems like since Nurkic has came back and logging in a lot of minutes, we're not seeing the same Robert Covington that we've seen prior to that. Also, a Larry Nance coming in. So for me, this is probably a better move for Covington. Solely because it just seemed like in Portland things just weren't panning out. Later on in the season, it seemed like he just was a shell of himself. So, for me, again, the fact that he hasn't done too much doesn't really shock me that much that they did move him. So, but I think he was just part of that trade for the Clippers to get Norman Powell, which is, I think, the biggest piece out of this whole trade, to be honest with you. Norman Powell is one of those aggressive shooters. And mistaken me if I'm wrong, was he in Toronto when Kawhi was there?
Yes, he was.
Okay. This could possibly be more so that bringing the band back together type thing. Bringing a group around Kawhi that he's comfortable with. You got Serge Ibaka, and now you're going to have Norman Powell with Kawhi. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that Norman Powell is a hell of a player, but he's also in that mix of, Anthony Simon started to get a lot of run. C.J. McCollum just came back, so the services of Norman Powell wasn't going to be needed as much. And it just seems like right now Chauncey is kind of starting to, making his own type of roster with what he had. We talked about it before with the C.J. McCollum and Dame. Like, I never liked Terry Stotts. I never really liked Terry Stotts. But even to this moment right now, it's kind of starting to seem like he wasn't the only problem there in Portland. So it seems like right now they're kind of looking in the mirror trying to fix a couple things. Hopefully they can get that situated. But the move of getting Norman Powell, it's not a bad move, to be honest. But I think that there are more trades that are going to happen. I always liked, ever since he came out of Duke, Justice Winslow. I wanted the Magic to get him, but it just seems like he's in that situation where he doesn't get the minutes to actually produce. Believe he was in Memphis at one point too, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Memphis. The one time when he was in Miami, he was getting, some run. He was playing pretty well. Then Jimmy Butler came in. Things kind of got shaken up there. But I see him as a great piece, but it's just the minute, like, what kind of minutes can he get? And, how much can he play, or will he play? So this trade is probably beneficial for both. But I see, like I said, the biggest news out of this is getting Eric Bledsoe from the Clippers. I think that, for one, Reggie Jackson is playing very well right now for them, which is probably one of the reasons why they got off Eric Bledsoe. And also Portland is possibly looking at a chance of maybe Dame being moved The question is where and when.
Let me go to the Clipper side of things. I think this move is more geared towards next year. And some of y'all probably thinking like, what do you mean by that? Well, Kawhi's out with the torn ACL. Paul George is having his injury issues right now. So you put those two together, and with those two guys out, you're not winning a championship, no time soon. So my thinking is like, you start building some assets, get some other guys in there, and come next season, the 22-23 season, Kawhi healthy, because by the time summer rolls around, I think that's when the ACL injury heals up, and wherever other injuries he has lingering kind of heal up, or at least be 80% or whatever. Same thing for Paul George and all that stuff. And you just roll out with your team next year with guys like, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Luke Kennard, Covington, Powell, Terrence Mann, Zubac. If Serge Ibaka would agree to a pay cut, bring him back, depending on how his back is. Brandon Boston, you get the point. So that's why I think D-Lock, that the Clippers are kind of like looking at a move, down for next year. You bring another scorer in. You bring another swing guy. In this case, you get Small and Robert Covington. So you can run a nice defensive lineup with George, Kawhi, Covington, and then, throwing Reggie Jackson there as your starting guard. And then, Terrence Mann, if you want to throw in that defensive guard, you have no power out there as well.
Right.
I'm just thinking this basketball strategy there.
Yeah. I mean, it right now we talked about as far as different rotations and lineups. They have a lot of different lineups they can go and have the defensive presence out there still, no matter what. So that's what it seems like they're doing. And to get a Covington who's, I think a better defender than a lot of people give him credit for, they got a lot of defenders on that team.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of defenders. So that team, it's going to be pretty hard to play offense against next year. I'm pretty sure they're going to have one of the better defensive teams next year. And then, like I said, they got scores that they need. Kawhi can get points when he wants to. Paul George can catch fire, for the most part. Reggie Jackson, who had a hell of a game, I think, against, is it the Lakers?
Yep.
I believe it was the Lakers. He had a hell of a game, So you got some players who can go, get you some points. But also these same players can play some defense if needed in different rotations. So, like I said, and it makes more sense that it is more so geared towards next year. Very good move. It's just now, at this point, making that move, what do these other teams on the West do? What do the Lakers do? The Suns look like they're going to be good for a while, depending on how long Chris Paul stays there. So, I like the move for them. But like I said, it's also it raises the eyebrows on what Portland does with Dame.
And before I get to the Portland part, I want to shout out to the chat. Shout out to Terry Rodriguez in the chat. Welcome, sir. Shout out to Mike Pat in chat. How you doing tonight, sir? And shout out to Larry B, the founder, in the chat tonight. Terry brought up about the Reggie Jackson shot against the Lakers. I'll tell you what about Reggie Jackson. This man last playoffs, talk about, he was almost at the league, in a sense. And kind of had, good run with the Clippers, and they brought him back. So good for him, kind of, finding a place and sticking with it. We'll see how long it lasts. Mike, we'll get to Bradley Beal here in a little bit, but to me, on the Portland side of things, D-Lock, they just signed Norman Powell this past offseason close to like $100 million. In which they trade Gary Trent for him. So I'm Portland. I give up Trent, and he signs an extension with Toronto for way less than what you gave Norman Powell. And those two are about the same player, really, if you think about it. Two guard, can play three, average about the same points, do about the same thing. In my eyes, they do about the same. Except Norman Powell just got more money for some odd reason. So I'm like, okay, you pay Norman Powell all that money, then to turn around, not even a year later, come February, you trade him to the Clippers, along with Covington. And I know you're going to try and free up some minutes for the young guys, like you mentioned, Anthony Simons, Trenton Walford, etc. It seems to me, D-Log, it's not, like you mentioned, I think either maybe CJ or Dame are getting moved within these 4 days, or one of them get moved in the summer. Because you don't move a guy you just traded for, give him a big contract extension, and then just trade him away. You don't do that type of stuff. So
there has to be something behind this. I mean, for me, it just seems like they have something in the works behind this. Clearly, I think, well, hell, to be honest, you take either CJ McCollum or Dame, but the hottest one clearly is Dame right now. So it makes you wonder, and it makes you see what is their plan moving forward. So for me, like you said, you did all this trade to go get this guy, then you paid him, and now all of a sudden you move him. Now we see some teams sometimes just be moving people just for the hell of it because the trade deadline's coming up. I can't say that this is that case just because the fact is they moved Covington and they moved Norman Powell together. So for me, I think that there could be something behind this. Now let me look up Bledsoe, because I know that for one he did sign a huge contract. So he's going to be on a contract next year.
Yeah, his expires in 2023. So Portland get relief in 2023.
Yeah, so it's. I mean, we have to see what their plans are, man. I mean, could they be getting off Dame? That'd be a shocker, but it could possibly happen.
Well, Well, Mike is asking in the chat, D-Log. Let me see what you think about this. If the Wizards were any type of competitive, I would love to see a deal made for Dame to pair with Beal. What you think about that? Since Beal won't be traded, or he's on the fence about it, the Wizards seem like the players don't like Dinwiddie for whatever reason. What you think about that scenario right there that Mike presented?
So to trade Dame to Washington, possibly, but I think the biggest deal is they have you're not going to take Dinwiddie in return.
Oh, you got to.
I think
salary reasons.
Yeah, I mean, how long does that? How long does that last? Like for me, I mean, you take Dinwiddie. Now you have Dinwiddie, McCollum, I guess Eric Bledsoe is going to be done next year, or they're probably going to possibly try to trade him. So that could be something that happened. But for a move like that, I'm thinking a 3-team trade. I'm talking about say 3-team trade because I don't know if I see a team. I don't know if I see Washington just trading Dinwiddie or Portland just trading Dame for just Dinwiddie straight up.
No, hell no.
So that's to me. I'm thinking there has to be some kind of mixture in there. Now I did see earlier, even though we probably knew this, they're saying that there's no way, Steve Nash said there's no way that James Harden gets traded. Understood. At least by the trade deadline. So, but it's also known that he says that, he may want to test free agency. So, and we'll touch on the Nets in a minute. It's just that right now, all these pieces could be moved. Now, to be honest with you, if I'm a team out of all of this, I'm probably looking forward to getting the player I want probably out of all of this. Clearly, would be Dame. We had to go first. But another person I would look at is Dinwiddie. I feel like Spencer Dinwiddie is one of the better players as well, but for some reason his players are not vibing with him in Washington, which hopefully we get more to that story. But that's a player that, again, I wouldn't mind trading for. So for me, that would be a dangerous combination to get Bradley Beal and Dame with that roster that they have. I'm pretty sure Kuzma probably will be moved too, some type of way. So that would be interesting if that happens. But we still have a Ben Simmons trade that can possibly happen. There's a lot of things. I think that Mo Bamba may be on the move as well. So there's a lot of different things that could happen, and we just have to wait and see. But that would definitely be a shocker.
And Mike saying, Dinwiddie's a free agent in 2024. I mean, Dinwiddie's deal when he signed with the Wizards ain't a bad breaker. So I'm pretty sure you got to throw in some more pieces in there to acquire Dame. But to Mike's question, I think it's an interesting idea if you still want to remain competitive. I always say in this show, the Wizards should just blow it up. I mean, you haven't done nothing. You ain't won like 50 games in years. I don't think ever. But what are we doing here? Y'all started out pretty decent in this early season. Now you kind of slid back. You backsliding down the standings. Lucky for y'all, the Hawks are so. The Knicks kind of, got to play basketball at times at certain points of the season. I just think it's time for them to blow it up, in my humble eyes. Now, we're getting a Damian Lillard be great for them. Cool, yeah. It'll be a game changer. But I think Washington's past due for, along with Portland, to kind of shake things up. So, that's just my perspective on if Dame were to get matched up to the Wizards. I think you just past due for a rebuild in Washington. I think some of these teams should look at at OKC. I'll say, okay, all right, Paul George, he wanted out of here. He's gone. We got multiple assets from the Clippers. Okay, Russ. Okay, thank you for your service. Trade you down to Houston. Got multiple assets out of that. That's where some of these teams should be looking at. Not trying to hang on just to hang on. And that's what I feel what the Wizards has been doing, for the past couple years. Hanging on too long, in my humble eyes. And then going to the chat real quick before we talk about the Nets. Ever trade deadline rumors. Adam in the chat saying, Will the Bulls ever have an answer against Embiid? Well, besides Vucevic guarding him, Chicago ain't got another big man down low. Isn't that right, D-Law?
Nope. They don't have anybody. And I think that they can be possibly a team that makes a move for a big man replacement, but they're asking a lot of Vooch. But you know how Joel Embiid is. Right now he's playing on the MVP type level.
Yep.
And he's on a mission right now. He's playing very good now. Again, for me, I still say that the defense has not been the same since Ben Simmons has been gone. But he's playing pretty well. And Vooch, I've seen Vooch go against teams and struggle against teams that have a great defending big man. So I think Vooch definitely struggled against Embiid, especially after you see Embiid trying to do all these Michael Jordan and Kobe moves and come back and play defense.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that play out, but I don't see no answer.
I think, Embiid, 40 and 10 tonight for the Sixers. Tobias Harris, contributing 23 points as well in the starting lineup, 8 rebounds for him. DeRozan, he played excellent. There's nothing more you can ask for 45 points in 41 minutes. And Vooch didn't play bad, but while I was on Adam's show about a couple weeks ago, I think that's one of the things I kind of harped on with this team, because after you get past that starting lineup, yeah, Caruso's there as your sixth man, but after that, the cupboard was kind of bare in a sense. And like I mentioned to Adam, Cousins would be a good pickup for them. I don't know who they're going to try targeting in the trade deadline. I think a lot of bigs they ain't used, like you mentioned, like a Mo Bamba, who's really not doing nothing in Orlando. Could be a good play. A nice young guy that kind of hungry for a fresh start elsewhere. Maybe, Robin Lopez, you can throw like a future second round pick for him and get some veteran experience right there, some toughness down low if you're the Bulls. But, I'll say this about the Sixers. D-Lock, besides Ben Simmons going out, they still kind of hung tough. They still hanging tough in the East. I still say my piece about Daryl Morey, but I give more credit to Doc Rivers and his coaching staff that kind of keep this team afloat, playing strong basketball. And you're not, and looking at the standings right now, you just one game out, a game and a half out from the first place in the East for Miami. So, and you can say that for 4 other teams. So, the opportunity is there for them to still be like a number one seed, repeat as a number one seed again, like last year. So, will the Bulls have an answer for Embiid? You better hope to see him in the Eastern Conference playoffs if the Bulls stay in the second spot in the East. And for Adam's second question, will Northwestern hoops ever be worth anything? If they hire somebody like a Tony Bennett and recruit by like some strong 2-3 star guys that can get into Northwestern, guys that stick around for 3 or 4 years, that's probably your best way for Northwestern to build. It sucks because you're in the Big Ten, but I think you need somebody like a coach like that. Kind of like find like a Pat Fitzgerald, guy that's kind of consistent and can coach very well. If you can find like a nice young stud like a Brad Stevens in the world or something like that, go that route. Because if you're trying like a bit higher, do like a bit splashy higher, that guy be going elsewhere to a blue bud. in my humble eyes. So, D-Lock, I really don't want to talk about this beef.
I know.
For those that don't know what we're talking about, last night Stephen A was on the Countdown Crew on ABC. Stephen A had words for one Kevin Durant. And as y'all know, Kevin Durant and Stephen A don't like each other, going back to days of First Take when Stephen A threatened Kevin Durant on air. This my words. He did threaten the man on air. If you ever want to make an enemy out of me, I'm right here. That's a threat. So
that's a big time threat.
That's a threat. My eyes, that's a threat. I'm like, ooh, dog, make an enemy out of me. So he gets on the countdown, says, KD may have made a mistake going to the Brooklyn Nets. Team up with Kyrie, shouldn't left with Steph Curry, should have stayed in Golden State for forever on end. KD, with his Twitter fingers, has gone to say, Steve, since you decided to use ESPN to push your personal agendas, I'm sure your minions will run with this story for you. But if you believe this is what my career is defined by, then you're just a flat-out hater. It's just going to be hard to box the God in. D-Lock, the Nets today lost to the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets. Yes, the Nuggets. 8 straight losses. They were top 3 in the East. They slid to number 7. Durant's out. Kyrie so-so in his games. Harden don't want to be there. He missed the Houston nightlife. People question Steve Nash's coaching. What's up with the Nets, man? In your eyes.
This is something that I did not see coming. We can take this back. So we go back to Kevin Durant. I think it was towards Achilles.
Yes.
In the NBA Finals with the Warriors, going against the Raptors. It was kind of clear that he was going to leave. I think probably before that, possibly they think he was going to come back, but clearly did what he did with the Warriors, and plenty talk of him going to join a team that they were down 3-1 and they came back and beat the OKC Thunder. He joined them, so now he wants to have that. Want to be compared to a LeBron. He wants to have his own team, take him to the championship.
Nothing wrong with that.
And that was nothing wrong with that at all. So in the midst of all this is going on, you have Kyrie feeling some type of way about now wanting to be the guy. Wanting to have his own team. Dealing with a LeBron on his team. People saying that he's one of the reasons why Kyrie was as successful as he was, clearly making that important shot against the Warriors in the NBA Finals, that clutch 3-pointer. But, they were still giving a hell of a lot of credit to LeBron. So, remember he went to Boston. That didn't work out as planned. So these two guys end up, being like best buds. I believe it was over Olympics, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they end up being like best friends. And how ironic this is, both of these guys are in a sense competing against one LeBron James. So they have this, we're gonna join forces and X, Y, and Z. They at one point we thought that the Knicks were gonna be like the team that just grabbed, that were in play for a Kevin Durant. Also being the same of getting remember they were in the mix where we thought they were gonna possibly get Zion, but the Knicks do the Knicks thing that they did last night against the Lakers. Things just don't fall their way. So these guys, team up together, and it just seemed like a match made in heaven. Like, these are best friends. Remember, in the beginning, as soon as they were hiring a coach, get Steve Nash, what Kyrie said. I mean, we don't need no coach.
Yep.
I mean, we could do this on our own. No, we don't really need a coach. They got a podcast. I mean, the way these guys talking is like they guaranteed a damn NBA title. Like, it just seemed like it was just meant to be. So then we have Houston, we have a problem in a sense. We got one James Harden who is just ready to leave Houston. Like, he's just ready to go. This dude is probably leaving Houston. He's at practice, showing his ass in a sense. He coming to games 15, 20 pounds over. Dude look like he ain't worked out in 2 or 3 months. And then he finds a way to Brooklyn, and like literally a week or two after that, this dude looked like he just took off his like just grabbed all his weight and just took it off. It looks like a totally different athlete. So now we have another big three in Houston. We were thinking this is not going to be an issue at all. We thought that this was going to be the team that was just going to be hard to beat. And then Kyrie gets hurt. And then everything just falls to the side. That happens, and then now more leaning on a James Harden, more leaning on a Kevin Durant. Now, for me, I was thinking like, hell, you got 3. Remember what I said earlier in the season, this season? I was like, this is the most talented roster I've seen, like, in a long time. Like, even though you got some of these guys that are not in their prime, like, this roster is talented as hell. Like, you got Blake Griffin, Paul Millsap, Patty Mills, Bembry's on there. Like, these guys are loaded. Like, I mean, they just went and got Cam Thomas, who was a hell of a scorer at LSU. Like, they had everything lined up. Like, there's no reason why this team shouldn't make a lot of noise. And now the COVID thing happens. I think the biggest problem with this team, and is even showing in proof with Kevin Durant, is egos.
Yeah.
Like, the big three is like all of them have ego issues. Like, that just, like I told you, I think you said it to me. Sent to me what Kevin Durant is saying to Stephen A. I'm like, bro, why are you so worried about it? Like, that's really bothering you that much? We're talking about a guy that has a burner account and is arguing in his DMs with a 15-year-old. Like, this stuff right here just doesn't, I mean, this what he's doing is going to add on to that, and it doesn't match for the capability that this guy, has. Then we got James Harden, who clearly, if he doesn't want to do something, he will show, his ass in a sense. So that, and then we have a Kyrie who, at one point, I believe he still believed the world is flat, has his different beliefs in what he believes, and then the COVID issue is going on. There's too many egos on his team, man. And another thing, there's no leader that can calm all this stuff down. Like, okay, granted, Kevin Durant followed Kyrie there, but he's not the actual leader that you need. That's one thing about LeBron that is one thing about him that you can't say about others. That he's so great at he's being a leader. I just watched yesterday. Remember I told you we traveled to Houston last week, so we were off this weekend. So I didn't do anything yesterday. I was off yesterday. All day I watched The Last Dance. I watched the whole series. And as much as Michael Jordan was this bully that they were talking about, how he, was his asshole, he was a gambler, all this stuff, this dude was a leader. Like, at the end of the day, he was some type of leader. Like, if you hear his interviews and what he's saying, the stuff that he's a leader, he has a purpose about the things that he was doing. He was explaining how he hit Steve Kerr. He punched Steve Kerr in the eye, and the reason for why he did it. Like, he does that, and then he finds him and Steve Kerr have a good relationship. Therefore, he's helped. Now they have a similar purpose, and they're helping each other. Like, we don't see that type of leader in this Nets team. We don't. And I think that's the biggest issue. Like, there's so much stuff going on. Dude, even with Kevin Durant not playing and James Harden, ain't no way in hell this team should be on this 8 to 9 game losing streak.
No.
With all that talent that they got, like, there's no way. I don't care if they played the West top 5 teams straight. This team has entirely too much. And it's just like they cannot get it together. Now, granted, we've seen, NBA championship teams, college, very rare in college football because you got to go basically damn near undefeated unless you lose one game and come back and go to the championship. NFL teams have a slump mid-season, or they have a few issues mid-season. They get back on track, boom, NFL champ, NBA champs, whatever. We see that happen. So this could be one of those situations, but this is a shocker to me, man. I mean, kind of a shocker, but at the same time, not really because of the egos that these three have. But this team has entirely too much, man, to be going through this. Like, you have to have a leader that calms all this stuff down. All that talent. All three of these guys can get shots when they want. And it shows. I've seen them be down by 20 and come back and win games. So they have the talent to do it. But now we have a James Harden who's saying, I said earlier, who's thinking about leaving, who's going to test free agency. So, he's already, in a sense, checked out. We have Kevin Durant who's out for, another 4 weeks?
Yep.
I believe. Yeah, about another 4 weeks. So that they're probably going to drop in the East just a little bit. Now, luckily, the East is not as deep as the West, so they're not going to drop too far in the playoffs like that. And now we got Kyrie, who's playing on and off right now. So somebody's gonna lose their job with this team. I hate to say it, but with these three guys, if they don't win a championship this year, with these three guys, or they're not at least at the NBA Finals, they're, again, like you said about blowing up, they're gonna have to start this stuff over. They're gonna have to. Not necessarily completely wash and just be done with all three players, but I think somebody's going to move. Maybe a player, maybe a coach, maybe a player and a coach. But there's no reason why we're looking at a team with this type of losing streak. I mean, it's just all this talent. And I just go through, I'll let you touch on to it. I'll go through the games that they lost, because this kind of stuff, man, like it look at this, man. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to the Lakers. We know what the Lakers are now. They lost to Denver, Golden State, Phoenix, Sacramento, like Utah, like Denver, like, and it's not getting. And not only that, they're not playing any defense in these games. They're not playing any defense.
Yep.
Like, all of these teams are averaging about 100. They're averaging like 110 points a game against them. Hell, 115. Denver put up 124. Utah 125. Like, come on, man. Hell, Minnesota probably in overtime 136 points, man. Like I said, too many egos. For me, too many egos right now. They have to get that together.
To Stephen A's comments, what he said about Durant, leaving, leaving for Kyrie instead of staying with Steph. One person who's kind of like a big X factor of him leaving Golden State was Draymond Green. And Draymond, being Draymond, kind of really mucked that up in that sense. Which a lot of people really don't kind of take Draymond to task on that. That y'all could have had like a very easy path to multiple championships and kind of been discussed as one of the best NBA franchises of all time. If, you're talking about egos, if your ego didn't kind of mess up things. But I put that kind of more on ownership, kind of in a sense, saying, who you rather keep, Durant or Draymond Green? You take the better player.
Ooh. Yeah,
and,
of course.
Yeah, man. I know as ownership, you probably love Draymond and whatnot, but you got to move on for that. If it's going to keep Kevin Durant in the fold. The Nets have lost 8 straight. Jokic got a triple-double on them today off 30 minutes of play at that. 30 minutes of play, triple-double for Jokic, 12 for 15 shooting for the field. That's this poor defense. And let get that man anything he wants. I don't know where this team go from here. They play Boston next game, and that game could go any way. Boston could be, Tatum Brown could have a great night, or they could have a bad shooting night, and the Nets could rebound off of that. I didn't mind Steve Nash being the coach, but if he's going to be a coach, I think Durant and Kyrie wouldn't be the first 2 people I would have in mind coaching. I wouldn't put him in that situation. In my eyes. Now, like you mentioned, if they don't make it to the finals or win a championship, I could possibly see him being gone. Another thing that you mentioned about COVID, that has really hurt them, I think, a lot. Kyrie not playing and stuff like that. He's not playing for the good majority of the start of the season. Didn't help things either. And then it's just me. Harden has kind of been off since he's been in Brooklyn. At times he's played well. Other times, it just really ain't been the same. And I don't know which way, they're going to go in the trade deadline. They said they're not going to trade him, but, stranger things has happened. I really don't know which way this team's going. In free agency, you take a risk of what to do in the future, what you do with your future and whatnot. Sometimes it turns out good, sometimes it turns out bad. In this situation here with these guys, this is a bad draw in my eyes. We didn't know how COVID was going to change the sports landscape of things. You can't, estimate that. So I don't know which way the Nets will go. This is a team that kind of can take New York with the new generation coming in, growing up, to kind of take over that city, and it seemed like every chance they got a chance to do that, they kind of stumble on their feet. Whether it's the teams with Darren Williams, Joe Johnson back in the day, a few years ago, or this team here, it seemed like they never kind of took the opportunity, the chance to kind of be that team in New York, be that Mecca in a sense. I think the Nets will make the playoffs, D-Lock. To wrap this up, I don't see them making any moves at the trade deadline. They could save face if James Harden wants to leave or might leave. Could save face and trade him for Ben Simmons. And you got a young star for you in the future. Maybe. Just maybe.
Yep.
Because, you ain't trying to bring Kyrie back. You already kind of hurt your team not being here since the jump. And you still got to go back to Kyrie anyways. He took those 2 weeks off last year too. We talked about that on this show. And at the same time, around when they got acquired James Harden too,
Yep.
taking those 2 weeks off. So back to what Stephen A. said. You know, Durant's free to do what he wants. He's a free agent. He's free to do what he wants. Could he stay in Golden State? Yeah, sure. But, you know, we all make choices in life. He made that choice. And, you know, it is what it is.
That's my thing. Like I said, I feel like, you know, these type of decisions, you know, you made this decision to go to Brooklyn or, in a sense, follow Kevin Durant, Kyrie, because of that sole reason of trying to prove why, you know, you are needed more than a Steph and a Clay. Now, to be honest with you, and you tell me if you agree with this or not, Golden State has not took a step back since he left.
No. Well, except for that 1 year.
We're talking about the year where they're, in a sense, healthy. You know, I ain't talking about a year where you don't have a Clay and, you know, Draymond is dealing with injuries. They don't forget they still got Wiseman still in the fold too. And when he comes back, it's going to eat more hell. Like, they have a hell of a lot more shooters. They haven't really taken a huge step back for me to say, well, you know what? If they would have Kevin Durant, you know, this would look like a totally different team. Nah, that's not the case. So, and then to go with that, you have a situation where we see Kevin Durant last year with an injured James Harden, injured Kyrie, or not playing Kyrie, in the playoffs, and they can't get past Milwaukee, who goes to win the NBA Finals. Now, granted, Milwaukee had who they had, but going into this series, I would think most people, and I'm almost positive, we all thought that Brooklyn was going to win that series.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what have we? Yes, he's an NBA champ. Yes, great. We see a lot of teams make those moves, or players make those moves to do. Hell, we seen Karl Malone try to do that. Go to the damn Lakers. So these players go to these teams to get that, you know, that one thing that they chased, and he has a few titles, but he knows why he left Golden State. He knows one main reason is to prove that he can do it without a Steph who was an MVP. I mean, we can't forget, dude did go to a 73-12 team. Was it 73?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So at this point, you know, you have a life. If that's your main thing, and what happens is, we know how sports is. Everything is in social media. They're going to talk about it. They need different stories to talk about. So the fact that all this is happening in Brooklyn right now, and Kevin Durant, one of the main reasons he went there was to help Brooklyn to an NBA final. Like, of course they're going to talk about it, whether it's the person that you don't like or not. So for me, this is something that this is going to haunt Kevin Durant if he don't win an NBA final in Brooklyn. All this stuff that's going on, that's the same thing with Kevin Durant. You know, they answering questions about the situation with Kyrie. You know what he's saying? Well, I'm just here to play ball. That's what I want to do. You know why? Because he knows that he wants to prove that he can win the title without a Steph Curry, a Clay, and a Draymond. Now, granted, they had those guys, and he would close the game out. You know, he'd be that X factor that, you know, you double team Clay, you double team Steph, he's going to be wide open. He's going to knock it down damn near 90% of the time. But, dude, like, this is going to be something that they're going to need. He's going to need to reassure everything, and I'm pretty sure that's what he's definitely aiming for, and it's gonna bother him, especially when people like a Stephen A. or Skip say the things that they say to him or regarding him.
And then I'll make it real quick before we close out the show. Folks like Stephen A. Skip, I just use them you brought them up. I'll just use an example real quick. They harp on these athletes, like, don't build a super team, stay with your own team, do your own thing. And then these guys try to do their own thing, and then, well, you should do this and that and that. Pick a side. I know the media loves to drop narratives and stuff like that, and sometimes we, stupidly, take them up. But, like, pick a side you want to stay on. If you want the guy to go about doing his own thing, if you ridicule the guy going with the Warriors, joining them after he won all that good stuff, then commend the guy going to his own plays, trying to do his own thing. You can't you can't continue ridiculing these guys, go and join up with this crew of people, then come back years down the line and say, well, maybe he should just stay here instead of going over there. Like, just pick a side. If you think his legacy would be better intact staying with Steph, say that. But don't come at the man now. He's trying to do his own thing, and y'all like these guys to do their own thing. Pick a side. That's all I got to say on that. But before we head out, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to y'all about IESportsRadio.com. For the last 7.5 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you the amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we have been continuing to be by the fans for the fans with your help, and we're ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, IESportsRadio.com, you see our Patreon linked with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at $5 a month. This donation gets you shout-outs on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include High Sports Radio's merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all for very much for continuing to make High Sports Radio direct feed for all that is sports. Shout out to Spuzz Chat for being our fan of the month. He's been on guests on 3 and Out throughout the playoffs, so shout out to him. He's a Rams fan living in San Diego. Man, I miss living in San Diego. Anyways, and shout out to Jim, January fan of the month. Thank you, sir, for all y'all contributions. D-Block, how can people find you on social media?
You guys can definitely find me at Black-813. Black, the word dash 813. On Twitter and Instagram. Check me out. I'll definitely be tweeting many things, especially regarding other NBA games going on. Let them know where they can find you at, man.
Find me on Twitter at Spawn4288. Make sure you follow the page at Fast Break at IESR. That's Fast Break IESR. The trade deadline's coming up, so follow us there, and we get all our news and takes on there. But till then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next week, and we're out.